Do you need anything else?
Get down and get my extra tonight. So when I shoot them, the stuff has been dealt with. Because I'm like this. So if I shoot him in my residency, because he's sitting here putting his me for the second time, deal with it. I'll help him. You hear this, right? You heard what he just said? I'll get my extra tonight. So when I shoot him, and I need to call the cops and get it extra house.
What you just heard was a woman telling police officers, while they were still standing right there, that she was going to shoot someone. Moments later, a man was dead. This is the story of Quenisha Johnson, a case that divided an entire community and left legal experts questioning everything. What really happened inside that house on Edenbury Lane? Was this self-defense? Or was it something far more calculated? Stay with us.
On November 27th, 2022, this defendant went downstairs, she went to her car, she grabbed not one, but two weapons. She grabbed a metal tire rod and a firearm, put the firearm in her pocket. She went upstairs, but before she went upstairs, she told her 7-year-old to call 911. And before she went upstairs, she told her 7-year-old to let the police know that DeMonte hit her. The 911 call is placed, and in the background, you can hear the defendant go upstairs. She hits DeMonte with a metal pipe, and then she shoots him. And while he's screaming in pain, she says, "Bye, bye." And then a full 30 seconds goes by, and she runs downstairs, and she says, on the 911 call, tell them he just hit me. And what does the 7-year-old do? And you all will get to hear that 911 call in a few moments. That 7-year-old repeats what her mom says. So let's talk about the parties that were in the house on that day. We have the defendant, we have and then we have the victim, DeMonte Smith, and then they have a shared child who's an infant also inside of the house. So let's talk about it. So at some point between November 26th and 27th, late at night, the defendant leaves the home and she's out all night. She's clubbing, she's missing for multiple hours, and then she doesn't return to the house till 11 a.m. DeMonte, like I said, is taking care of the 3 children all night by himself and all morning. And at some point in the middle of the night, the defendant reaches out to DeMonte and lets him know that she's been in some sort of physical altercation, or her friends have been in some sort of physical altercation at the club, and that they're going somewhere else, and then her phone dies. And she told him originally, "I'll be back at 6 a.m., and she's not. So what does DeMonte do? DeMonte calls her aunts in Philly, Rochelle and Andrea, and he's worried. And the aunts will testify that they were worried. So based on that physical altercation that happened, they all start calling local hospitals. They all start calling local jails to try to find out, where is she? And then, apologize, at 9 a.m., or around 9 a.m., the defendant goes back to her car. She realizes her phone was dead. She plugs it in. She sees messages. She sees calls. So she calls her aunts. And the aunts yell at her, like, "Where have you been? We've been worried about you." And at that point, they three-way in DeMonte. And DeMonte makes a threat. He says something along the lines of, "I'm going to kick your ass." Now, members of the jury, we're not going to shy away from the threat he made. The defendant heard it, the aunts heard it. I'm assuming you'll hear them testify to it. The detective saw a message. But what I want y'all to pay attention to is the defendant's own statement. Because she made a statement to the police, and you all will get to hear that. And in that statement, she says, "Oh, I was just joking it off. I was laughing it off. I didn't take it serious." And this is 2 hours before she even shows up to the house. But the evidence is going to show what actually happened is she set her plan into play. She was embarrassed in front of her family when DeMonte made that threat, so it was time to get rid of him.
The prosecution painted a clear picture. a woman who felt humiliated, then planned revenge. But the defense saw it completely differently. Quanisha's attorney argued she wasn't a killer. She was a mother, 2 months postpartum, terrified of a man who had already put his hands on her. The question the jury had to answer wasn't just what happened in that house. It was why. And to understand that, you have to go back to the very beginning of that night.
I don't recognize the case that the prosecutor just talked about at all. Quanisha Johnson pleaded for protection, cried for help, and she was left defenseless by police officers who knew better. She was left defenseless against a serial abuser by police officers who knew better. You see, on the night in question, Ms. Johnson had just come through her 4th pregnancy. She was 2 months postpartum and finally was going to get a night out for her friend's birthday. A night well deserved after caring through maternity leave 8 weeks for her 2-month-old. She was going to get a night out just to celebrate a friend's birthday. She left about 11 o'clock that night or so, went out to celebrate a friend's birthday, went to a couple of after party spots. Her friend got into a disagreement at one of those spots. She let DeMonte know about the disagreement, dropped him her location so she would know where he was at, and went to another spot so he would know, and dropped him her location so he would know where she was at. You will hear that my client has 2 phones. One because she owns a business, and one is her personal phone. So my client leaves her business phone in the car, takes her personal phone inside with the location dropped. While she's inside, hanging out with her friends, her phone dies. When she comes back out of the place ready to go home, she plugs her phone up, and as the charge makes its way up, gets a call from her aunt, Miss Rochelle Newell. Miss Rochelle Newell says, "Hey, where have you been? We've been looking for you. DeMonte's been looking for you." She says, "Well, I dropped my location so he knows where I'm at." She says, "Well, he's been looking for you. We've called hospitals. We were wondering where you were." And she was like, "Well, I'm right here. I'm headed home." She said, "Well, let me 3-way DeMonte in." And as soon as DeMonte gets on the phone, you'll hear from Rochelle Newell and her other aunt, Miss Gonzalez. As soon as they get DeMonte on the phone and he asks questions, he's in touch with you. She says, "I'm on my way home. I dropped you my location. When you get corroborate that." They were on the phone listening. She also looks at her text messages that DeMonte had been sending her when her phone was dead. And unlike the prosecutor's categorization of it, he says in those text messages, "When you get home, I'm gonna beat your ass on crib." On crib. "I'm gonna beat your ass on crib." That's what he says in those text messages. So what does my client do? She does what the prosecutor, what the state, what every law enforcement agency tells you to do. Don't take matters into your own hands. Call the police. Ask for help. So my client calls the police. Calls 911. You'll hear that 911 call. And she says, "I'm getting threats from my baby's father who's at home with my 3 children. I'm getting threats and I'm scared to go home. I'm in fear." They say, "Well, we'll dispatch an officer to you." She says, "I'm about 30 minutes from home." She's driving home and there's some issues with them getting the address. You'll hear the 911 call. The operator can't quite understand where the address is. And you'll hear that call. And she says, "I'm on my way home. I'll be there The officer beats her home, and then the officer makes a personal phone call, which was not recorded, to Ms. Johnson's phone, which she got from the 911 operator. Ms. Johnson says, I'm about 10, 15 minutes away. I'm almost there. I'll be home in a second. Please don't leave. I'm scared to go into the house because of the threats she's received from DeMonte Smith. The officer calls her back and says, I've got to take another call. I've been dispatched. Don't go into the home. Just wait. And what does my client do? She follows the officer's instructions. She gets into her neighborhood, waits in the cul-de-sac for the officer. She calls them back and says, I'm here. This is her second time calling 911. She says, I'm here. And I'm waiting. I'm scared to go in the house. I want an escort. I don't want to go in the house by myself with DeMonte Smith. That's 3 times she calls 911. 2 times. She continues to wait. She continues to wait. And she calls 911 a 3rd time and says, hey, I don't know if y'all remember, but I'm the person who was waiting for someone to come and escort me to the house. I got the threats. And this time she says, look, I'm really concerned because he was irate on the phone. And you'll hear from Ms. Rochelle Newell, Ms. Gonzalez, that outside of their conversation on 3-way with Ms. Johnson, they were also texting DeMonte and talking to him and saying, don't put your hands on her again. You can't do that again. We're not gonna go for that again. You see, because they took the threat seriously. So she waits. And then she does a 4th thing. She triggers the alarm in the house so that her alarm company will call her. And when her alarm company calls her, she says, please dispatch a police officer. I do not want to go into the house with DeMonte. He's in there with my 3 children. I don't want to go into the house with him. He's been threatening me and I'm scared. It's her 4th time trying to get in touch with police. She waits. She waits. No one comes. Still doesn't go into the house. Here's why that's important. Here's what you will learn why that's important. She had no duty, no requirement to call police at all. Ms. Johnson could have gotten those threats, went in that house with her gun, waited for him to fulfill his promise, and she could have shot him in self-defense. Never called police at all. Never waited for a dispatch. Never done any of that. The importance of that, as you will learn, is that goes to her intent. As the judge just described to you, every crime requires 2 things. It requires an act. It requires an intent in your state of mind. She had no duty under Georgia law, no obligation, no requirement to wait for any police officers, but she did. And when they didn't come, you know what Ms. Johnson does? She drives around the corner in her neighborhood. She flags down a police officer, finds one, flags him down and says, I've been waiting for a police officer. I'm scared to go in the home. My 3 children are in there. Will you follow me to my home? And he says, I heard that call. Yes, I'll follow you.
4 times. She called for help 4 times. The defense made that point loud and clear. But here's where the story takes a sharp turn. Because even with 2 deputies standing right outside that house, Quanisha didn't wait. She went to her truck, grabbed a firearm and a tire iron, and walked back inside. Whatever happened in that house next would change everything, and it was all caught on camera.
Do you need anything else?
Get down and get my extra tonight. So when I shoot him, the self-defense then with. Because I'm like this. So if I shoot him in my residency, because he's sitting here trying to kill me for the 2nd time, then what? I'll have him. You hear this, right? You heard what he just said? I'm going to get my extra tonight. So when I shoot him, and I can call the cops and get that down.
Those words, "Hurry up before I die," were the last coherent things DeMonte Smith ever said. He was rushed to Emory-Hillendale Medical Center and did not survive. Back outside, Quanisha was taken into custody immediately. But before she was cuffed, She said something to the officers still standing there, something that would become one of the most debated moments of the entire trial. She claimed she said, "I told y'all he was going to do it." Prosecutors insisted she said something else entirely.
What did you say to the police who were still waiting outside?
That I told y'all he was going to do it.
And what happened after that?
I was handcuffed.
You found it okay to leave your 3 children with him overnight again.
So on the day of the incident, the problem wasn't that I was at work, so me leaving my kids with him to go out for my friend's birthday. Yes, I did. I didn't feel like anything was wrong.
Okay. And you were gone all night, right?
I was at work, yeah.
At work, gone all night. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And 2 weeks after, on November 26th, you decided, even though this man has put his hands on me and he has been violent to me, I'm going to leave my 3 children under the age of 8 in his custody all night. Is that right?
He was never violent to my daughters, so yes.
Okay, so that's what you found fit. And you shoot him, and then you say bye. But on direct, you said you kind of blacked out, right?
Yes.
And your last words to the dying man were bye multiple times.
Yes, I don't recall saying that. Had I been to my senses, I wouldn't have, but yes, I did say bye.
Okay. But you tell detectives what you did was you kind of followed him down the stairs and made sure he was okay.
I did.
Okay. But you didn't do that because you said bye, and that's the only thing that's heard, right?
I did walk him down the steps.
The prosecution had a simple strategy on cross-examination. Use Quanisha's own words against her. She told 911 she wasn't worried about her safety. She left her children with a man she claimed she feared. She said bye to a dying man. And before any of it happened, she told the officers she was going to shoot him. Each of these details alone might be explainable, but together they painted a troubling portrait that the jury could not ignore.
She announces her intention. She announces her intention to the police. And by that, I mean she says to them, okay, when I shoot him, and the police tell her, Officer Lammy tells her, well, you know, you better be able to articulate that. And what was her response? If I could switch to it on there, I would right now. But I trust that you recall this. She says, oh, I can articulate it. Ma'am, if you can't, how can you articulate the need to use deadly force when nothing has happened yet? She has decided she's going to do it. She has announced her intention, and she has decided beforehand that she is justified in using deadly force. That is not how it works.
So you didn't have your phone or anything on you at that point?
I didn't.
Did you ever go back to that location?
I didn't.
Did anybody in your family ever go back to that location?
They went once. They went to retrieve some of my items for my daughters because my daughters were transported to Philadelphia. Once they got there, my house was flooded. My cameras was ripped out of the wall. Everything was damaged. My roof was caved in. So it wasn't nothing really solid.
Ms. Johnson, how did it make you feel knowing what had happened?
It still made me feel the same way. I never wanted it to happen. I didn't intend for it to happen. I didn't mean for it to happen.
But in that moment, You felt like you had to defend yourself.
I did.
Quanisha broke down on the stand. Real tears, real pain, or a very convincing performance depending on who you asked. Her attorney had done everything to make her sympathetic. A mother, a survivor, a woman the system failed. But the prosecution had one more card to play. During the trial, Quanisha's own daughter, who had previously told child forensic interviewers that she saw her mother hit DeMonte with a pole, changed her story on the stand, saying it was DeMonte who had hit her mother. The prosecution suggested the child had been coached.
The emergency. Okay, what's going on at the location? I'm getting, okay, so my boyfriend is in 1 second. It's in the house. I'm someone's there. Station? It is, yes. I mean, how long until you arrive at the location? About 9 minutes. You said where? 9 minutes? 9 minutes. What kind of car are you in? Color name? I'm in a white dad, ma'am. Okay, what's your name? My name is G-U-A-N-C-E-S-H-A. Johnson. And what are you needing an escort for? Are you just trying to gather belongings, or? No, I live there. The house that my name, I just see him. He's different. So I just want some people of those public places. Okay, and what is he look like? He's licensed, he is jet. It's a set on state. We can build on my board. Okay. We'll go ahead and get somebody out there. You said you're about 9 minutes? Yeah. Okay. All right, I'll go ahead and put it down. No problem. I'll put somebody in there for you.
Why then is she saying to 911 on the third call, quote, I'm not worried about my safety? But now here in court, it's, I was scared for my life. I was crying for the police not to leave. I thought my life was in danger. When minutes prior, she's telling 911, I'm not worried for my safety. She announces her intention. She announces her intention to the police. And by that, I mean she says to them, okay, when I shoot him, and the police tell her, Officer Lammy tells her, well, you know, you better be able to articulate that. And what was her response? If I could switch to it on there, I would right now. But I trust that you recall this. She says, oh, I can articulate it. Ma'am, if you can't, how can you articulate the need to use deadly force when nothing has happened yet? She has decided she's going to do it.
Two sides, two completely different stories, and 12 ordinary people had to decide which one was true. The jury deliberated on charges including malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, possession of a firearm during a felony, and cruelty to children. If convicted on the top count, Quanisha faced life in prison, possibly even the death penalty. The courtroom fell silent as the four persons stood to read the verdict.
As to count 1, malice murder, we, the jury, find Quanisha Johnson not guilty. As to count 2, felony murder, we, the jury, find the defendant, Quanisha Johnson, guilty of voluntary manslaughter. As to count 3, aggravated assault, family violence, we, the jury, find the defendant, Quanisha Johnson, guilty. Okay, so we'll schedule sentencing for Monday, August 28, 2023 at 8 a.m. Okay, so we're in recess. Do you all want to talk to the jury?
Judge, I know Mr. Sterling did ask if Ms. Johnson could remain on bond. And I know Your Honor didn't make a ruling. The state would ask the defendant be remanded into custody.
So I'm gonna allow Ms. Johnson to remain out on bond. Ms. Johnson? You need to appear here Monday morning, August 28th at 8 a.m. If you are not here at 8 a.m. Monday morning, an arrest warrant will be issued for you. And you will be sentenced to the maximum if you do not appear.
Quanisha Johnson was found not guilty of malice murder, but guilty of voluntary manslaughter and aggravated assault. She was sentenced to 20 years. 5 years in prison, 5 years under house arrest, and 10 years on probation. She was granted an appeal bond and placed on house arrest while her attorney challenges the conviction.